Welcome to Burning the Ships. I'm your host, Jason Seward, and today I got my man, Brandon Privette.
Let's go.
How you doing, brother?
Good, good.
Yeah, we've been talking about this a while, so I'm glad we finally coordinated it. The hard part has been, and we were talking off camera, I've done 99% of these episodes virtual, so it's real easy. Camera pointed at me, background, easy. Somebody else wherever they're at. So I'm trying to do more episodes in person with local folks and kind of highlight some entrepreneurs around our area and stuff like that. So you're kind of, my wife was first, now you're the second guinea
pigs.
Yeah. So, but longer term, we're trying to plot out like building out a podcast studio where we can have folks come in, sit down and do it. But this will work for now.
Yeah.
So,
right to it.
But Brandon, well, before we get into that, let me do JJ's joke of the week, and let me pull it up because I never remember them off the top of my head. All right, JJ's joke of the week. What do you call a bee who can't make up his mind? Do you have any idea?
A bee that can't make up his mind.
It'd be a maybe.
Nah.
That was JJ's joke of the week.
Simple but funny.
Yeah, so that's something. I did a podcast with my daughter, Emma, back around Christmas, and JJ wants to do one too, but that boy, he's 8 years old, can't focus more than 2 minutes. So to have him sit down, so his contribution is he gives me a joke for every episode.
That was, if you get him on here, that'd be the one that millions.
Oh yeah, probably will. So, but Brandon, let's like you and I, you're local to here, known you for years. We've really gotten to know each other a little more in depth the past few years. We work out at the same gym. We are both kind of in the same market. You're in the real estate space in a different niche than we are, but one thing I've always admired from afar with you is your hustle. Like, you are a hustler, and you've got a positive mentality around that hustle. You are a lot of times just head down, onto the next thing. You're doing what entrepreneurs do. You throw a lot of stuff at the wall, see what sticks, and but your primary, you're a real estate agent, and here in the Hampton Roads area, got several other businesses and things like that on the side to that. But I'm going to turn it over to you and let you tell the folks who you are, where you're from, what you do, and all that stuff.
Yeah, so Brandon, like you said, right here in Smithfield, been here my whole life, 32, 33 years. I got to know Jason through actually hunting. I don't know if you've talked much about that on your podcast, but
I've had some hunting guests on here.
There you go, yeah. So I knew Jason through hunting, and not just hunting. There's a lot of hunters, and then there's hunters that really, really go after the big ones, the one that make your heart move. And when you're talking about hustle, it's, to me, I think it's extremely rare for a consistent hunter that kills consistent, nice deer, not to have a plan, not to hustle, not to know. Maybe it could be done, but most of the time your consistent guys that are killing big deer, they understand the hustle, the camera work, the food plots. Yeah. And so that kind of takes me over to life in general, because hunting's our passion. That's what we love to do.
It's funny because like the last 3 years I haven't even touched a weapon, like because the kids are doing it now, and now they're consistently killing the big deer and stuff like that. But I hadn't. That's one area, as passionate as I am about it, that's the first time I've thought about the correlation of like my commitment to that.
Yeah,
that passion is very similar to what I'm doing in business and life and stuff like that. I've never thought about that. So
yeah, it's not easy killing consistent big deer, and my kids hadn't really picked it up as much as I'd liked, but we can't force them doing
right.
So you brought up the hustle. That's kind of where I've taken it to is the hunting side to the work side. My dad grew up, had his own business. The 2008 market shot him out.
Yep.
He ended up helping his dad, and he became a pastor, and so I've grew up doing fitting and welding my whole life. Since as soon as I got out of high school, fitting and welding. Went to the reserves of the Air Force.
Okay.
And came back, started fitting and welding, and it just wasn't for me.
What kind of timeline was that, like year-wise? When did you graduate?
Graduated, I was a year behind, so I graduated in 2011.
Okay.
I hit the Air Force maybe a year or two after. Did 6 years reserve
Mm-hmm.
in the Air Force.
Okay.
And came out and just started bouncing around. I've been at the paper mill. I've been at Surrey Power Plant. I've been at all the shipyards.
Right.
I just bounced around, chasing the money. And I never was, I wouldn't say happy, but I never was happy staying at one location for a long period of time.
Right.
I always, when I worked here for 6 months, I was like, all right, I got to do something different.
Mm-hmm.
Got to do something.
Yeah.
And that you could see that with how I do business,
You know what that is? It's called ADD. and most entrepreneurs struggle with it. That's right. Yeah.
I don't know if you know Alex Ramosi.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So Alex Ramosi, failed 9 times.
Mm-hmm.
9 businesses he opened, and failed, and now he, crushing it with the 10th one.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of how I've done things.
Yeah.
And I like what I do now. It has stuck. I feel like I do pretty well at it. Real estate's broad in general, and there's many avenues we can go into.
Yeah. So let's go back to when you were kind of bouncing around to different things. At that point, did you have a vision? Did you have a goal, or was it just, let's get to Friday when I get paid and find the next thing to do?
So, the old school mentality, not wrong, not right, just old school, is graduate high school, get a job, put money in a 401k.
Yep.
Right. And so that's what we were taught.
There's nothing wrong with that either.
Nothing wrong.
Right.
Just that's the old school mentality.
Yeah.
And that was the plan, is just bouncing around. And I noticed over the years, you can't save your way to wealth.
Mm-hmm.
I can't.
Right.
I don't know if, what I was doing, I couldn't save my way to wealth.
Yeah.
I couldn't make as many lunches every day. You could walk. I had I think Andrew Tate said this one time, but he said you could save every penny you've ever made in your life. Everything. You don't have no house payment, no bills, no food, whatever. Save every penny. And you still probably couldn't afford something that like Donald Trump or Andrew Tate, or what I mean? So I've learned you can't really save your way to wealth.
Yeah.
So the mindset is what triggered me from the 9 to 5 to the entrepreneur life. It was just all mindset.
So did that, if I remember correctly, your path was like your first step into the real estate space is you got your real estate license. Is that right?
That is correct. Okay. Yeah.
All right. So walk us through that. And then.
So land, being a hunter, I've always loved land. I've always walked land. I've loved, I know some loggers. I was really interested in the land.
Right.
And I wanted to actually get my real estate license to sell timber to, the paper mill. And it was a very hard avenue to get into. And I ended up getting into it. That's the first step I got into it. And the risk wasn't worth the reward for me. A lot of those players already have their sidelines stacked.
Yeah.
And so I had a talk with the agent about, hey man, maybe just, try to get into some houses, sell some houses. I didn't know anything about houses. Didn't even know what square footage or, quartz countertops or whatever. I don't know what none. But, you go where you can. And that's kind of how I flowed over to real estate, and then ended up, we do some flips and investing and that side of things.
So I would imagine, for me anyway, I'm curious to know if you've noticed the same thing or if it added some more motivation or whatever. But once I started, now I've been dabbling in real estate ever since I got out of college, right? But never with a strategy. But once I really locked in, okay, I can make something here. The one thing that excited me the most, and it goes back to your point of you're just never content in the same thing, is real estate. No matter which branch you go into of real estate, it's a never-ending puzzle to solve. And for me, it gives me the opportunity just for my brain to work all the time, right? And I'm always figuring out problems and solving problems, and I can bring value to certain situations. And that's what ultimately drew me in to do it full time, right? It's just that. And again, we do lending, we flip, we do all the things, a lot of things in real estate. But when you started getting into it as a real estate agent, did you kind of see that same like, okay, I can go anywhere I want with this. It's never ending, and it's always going to allow me to not do the same thing every day. Did you see that?
For sure. So like you said, what I like is, we got to find our paycheck.
Right. Right.
That's what I like about this
Mhm.
is you have to go out here and find your paycheck. I have to meet people. I have to talk to people. I have to do you have
Hunting.
to,
Hunting.
you're hunting for the next big buck
Right.
to help,
Yeah.
and create your own
Mhm.
paycheck so you can
Yeah.
provide for your family. Now it's not easy,
Yeah.
but it benefits if,
Yep.
you go all in.
Yeah. I remember when I was working in my former career, which was a great career. I loved it. It wasn't for me long term, which ultimately made the shift. But I remember one of my mentors early on in real estate said to me, like, all the money you're making, all you're doing, you're gathering, right? Now I was in sales, so there was some hunting aspect, but I'm hunting for somebody else, right? At the end of the day, it's not my business, not my baby. Um, in real estate, when I own it, or in your case, being a real estate agent, and to your point, you have to get it. Like you got to go out and earn your food, kill your food. That gave me, I've made a very quick analogy or correlation to like, okay, this is just like I do when I hunt. I mentioned earlier, I never really thought about all the planning and stuff that goes into hunting and how it correlates to this, but I am so attracted to that. See a target and go after it and then reap the rewards when I get it. Or when I fail, get more excited about doing it next time. And this gift checks all those boxes.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So you start as a real estate agent. You're learning the business. You're selling some houses. Do you remember that first commission check?
So I do. It
Okay.
was a house in Suffolk. I want to say, God, if I get the address wrong, I might get murdered on here. But
All right.
this is like 302
Okay.
Millfield or something. So it was my first commission check. The guy's name was Steven. And my brother, he worked for my brother. He was a welder that worked for my brother. My brother sent me to him. I had no clue what to do. I didn't. I was asking the other agent, "Hey, what am I supposed?" Really, she probably deserved the all.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a good feeling when you finally, as your first one, because you have to pass courses. You got to go through the test.
Right.
And even if you pass the courses, that's cool, but you don't get paid to pass the course.
Yeah.
So when you finally at least get rewarded for the hard work that you did, it means a lot. And it goes back to hunting. I know with you, that's the same way.
Yeah.
It's not so much the size of the buck. It's what you had to do to get that buck.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, so, and that makes a lot of sense to me. It's not so much the size.
Yeah.
It's what we have to do to get there.
I heard, I forget who it was. I think it was, Brandon Turner he was on Bigger Pockets. He's a big real estate. Oh, yeah. But I think it was him saying that currently in the U.S., there's more licensed real estate agents than there are houses for sale. And so that goes to show, to your point, just getting that license, that ain't making you any money. Yeah. Like it's a Shark Tank. Like you got to go out there and hunt and get it, like we keep talking about. So you get that first taste of blood, if you will. You get your first commission check. What was your mentality then? Like, hell yeah, I like this, I want to go get more? Or was it realization that, okay, this is going to pay the bills for a few weeks, but I got to was there anxiety around keeping the train moving?
At that time, I'm still welding.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm still doing both
at the same time.
I'm doing both at the same
time. So you got the paycheck coming in.
Yeah. So what I learned is, and this might not be for everybody, but what I learned is that I could never grow my real estate business big enough if it wasn't my number one. Right. It was always a side for me. I was working at the, plant doing real estate on the side, very busy. Coming home 11 o'clock at night, or coming home and then, working till 11 o'clock at night. The wife wasn't extremely happy, right? But she understood.
Yep.
You could understand and still not be happy.
Right.
And so it took me, I think, at least, Jason, 2 years of that. A lot, like working until Jimmy Allville, I know you know Jimmy. Jimmy actually talked to me. I was like, dude, you're never gonna grow this business if you're doing this business. You got to focus all your time and it's scary. You've done it.
Yeah,
it's scary. And it's still scary.
Yeah,
we've done well enough to where we're okay. But if something were to happen, we still got to go out there and find our next blood, right?
Right.
So
Right. Yeah. So and that's like I can relate to all of that. That because I was in the same boat. I mean, Bill and I mean, especially after we partnered, but we were still working our corporate jobs. You know, we knew that like we had to still get up and go to work every day. That had to be the top priority.
For sure.
And then second priority was this thing we're trying to build on the side to allow us to walk away from first priority. And that's hard. You essentially, it gets to a point for us, it did anyway. You have two full-time jobs, but you also have a full-time family. And
right.
then things start getting like just weird. Like, you're trying to balance it all. You're trying to be the dad and the husband that, you need to be, but you also have these two conflicting things that, I mean, for us, it fortunately we got the side thing to a point that did ultimately let us leave or allowed us to leave. But talk about like that for me, it was a very critical period in my life when I had all three things. And by three things, I mean family, side hustle, full-time job. It stressed me to the max, right? And almost forced me to have to like get rid of one, right? And that's ultimately I did. But can you talk about like your mindset going through a very similar thing, it sounds like?
Yeah, so I think Alex Hormozy says your 9 to 5 pays your bills, your 5 to 9 builds your legacy. And like you said, juggling everything is extremely tough on someone that's not used to it.
Yeah.
Someone that doesn't know how to do it.
Right.
And it caused and my wife, she understands what we're doing. She's cool. My wife, we split as far as not divorce, but things got real rough.
Yeah.
And it's not so much I was putting her last, but as a man, our job is to provide and protect. Right. And so if we're not feeling like we're providing, we're not feeling like a man.
Right.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Men provide and protect. And I wasn't doing a good job of providing and protecting for my family because it's not just money.
Right.
It's not. You can provide and protect without just money.
Yeah.
Money's a big help.
Right.
We all know that. But so I wasn't being the man I was being. And then she started resenting me.
Yeah.
And so while all this is going on, I'm trying to juggle, my 9 to 5, my 5 to 9, my, being a husband and a father. I totally forgot the biggest step, which was bored.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, it's not, I'm not saying it was intentional.
Yeah.
But I just didn't know how to juggle it. And things were real rocky there for a while. And it took us to just get down on our knees and really, grind and figure it out and get back to where we should be. And
what, so during that time, I know you have 2 kids, but what were they in the picture at that point?
They were.
Right.
And that's a sore subject for me because not every man sounds or thinks like I do. But when me as a man, when I'm dating somebody, I'm getting attention from them.
Yep.
Like it's me and her. We're going here, we're going there. We're coming home. We got alone time.
Man,
it's dude, it's nothing better, right? And then when this child comes along, of course, my son, but I'm saying when this child comes along and now he takes precedence over you
forever.
Right. Yeah. And see, I'm young. I'm 21 years old, 22 years old. I'm no way an age ready for a child. And nobody ever is.
Right.
But I'm not mentally ready that this human is going to just scoot right in front of me, And I kind of resented her because, he got more attention than I did.
Yeah. I get it. And that had at 21 years old, that's just lack of experience and maturity and understanding of how it is, right? So I get that. So where did it go from there? How did you get through and mature through all of that? Because I mean, obviously now y'all are fine, but how did you get through that period?
Yeah. So we had my son. 11 months later, we had my daughter.
Okay. Quick turnaround.
Pretty quick.
Yep.
Things were still rocky. I'm still working full time. I'm still doing, the 5 to 9, the real estate on the side. And it basically turned around when things just broke loose.
Okay.
Like it was either, I think we sat down with family members and, her mom, my mom, or whoever, and we sat down. And what I learned, and we've actually mentored a married couple that was going to go through divorce here recently, but what I learned is that when we were trying to fix things, I was trying to fix her. Right? She didn't need fixing. And I'm not saying that because she's my wife. I'm saying that in general, as a man, we don't need to try to fix our wife. Right? If we fix ourselves.
Or fix all their problems.
That's right. That's right. If we fix ourselves, if we just turn ourselves around, try to become 1% better every day as a father, a husband, and I think she might be like, nope, that was wrong. I think I gave myself 45 days and was like, I'm going to be the best husband and father I can for 45 days. If I work all day and then I come home and do real estate and then the dishes aren't done, it's not, hey, babe, you need to get those dishes done. No, we both live here. So, I'm doing everything I can. And it just absolutely, when I started being a better person, it was a game over. Yeah, it just rotated so fast. And and I'm not here to give marriage advice, but I will say if you're having issues, be the 1% better man, husband, father. Don't try to fix them. That's not going to work. That's not going to work. And so once I turned my life around, things got a whole lot better.
So you mentioned earlier about like our job. We feel that the pressure of our job as a man, a married man and a father, is to provide, protect, all that. Well, and I think I hear the same thing in what you're saying. But for me, early on in my wife's and our relationship, now we met, we didn't get married till I think she's going to kill me. I think I was 25 when we got married, 26. We're a little bit older. We didn't have our first kid till we were 30. So I might be off on age a little bit. Anyway, it doesn't matter. My problem was part of that protecting and providing was I felt like, and because this is naturally who I am, and I've humbled myself over the years, but years ago, I had this arrogance about me that I can fix anything. I still feel that way, but I use it in positive manners now. But back then, typical situation, wife comes home from work, venting about something that happened at work, right? So they just had a bad day and they're venting about Susie and Cheryl said this and whatever, all things going on. What I now know I should do, you're right, I understand, but man, that would be terrible. I'd hate to deal with that. I'm sorry you had to deal with that, and then shut the hell up. What I used to do, because my mindset is, I've got to help her solve this problem. Well, did you think about doing this? Did you say this? Why don't you go in there tomorrow and say this? And why don't you think about that? And maybe she was right. Like I was saying things like that would then lead to an argument, because now it was always, stop trying to fix my problems. I just want you to listen. And it took me years to figure that out. And to your point, when protecting and providing is not, I'm not a counselor to her. I'm not a therapist, right? I need to be there as a man when she needs me and she invites me in to help her solve a problem. But to always default to, let me hear your problems and I'm going to fix them all for you, that caused a lot of tension in our relationship earlier. That early on, and that was just lack of maturity and experience on my end, that if I didn't turn that around, that would have caused some issues. Did y'all experience similar?
So I just ran into that. Now that you say that, I just ran into that not long ago. She had an issue with her job. She's a loan officer. And I feel like I need to step in and solve everything. And that's not, even if it's right or wrong, it might be right to this person, but it's wrong to that person, or right to this person, you know what I mean? And so I understand, and I'm going to use that for now on, because
they just want us to listen. And it is like us. If you're venting to her, or if I'm venting to my wife, is the first response we want is for her to come in and give us advice on things we were doing wrong or what we need to try to do different. No, just listen to us, and men, I think, naturally hold more of that in. So we're not doing a lot of venting to our wives because we perceive our role as, don't put our burdens on them. A lot.
And as we shouldn't.
Right. Yeah. But so y'all get through that. That was the beginning of kind of like you trying to figure out how to balance all this. And it sounds like you worked your way through that fine. At what point were you able to pull the trigger and say, okay, I'm going all in and I'm leaving this stuff behind?
I've never shared this publicly before.
Okay, all right. Well, let's go.
Yeah, so this is pretty cool. So I had built a house out in Smithfield on Langford Lane.
Mm-hmm.
We were living there. I'm 9 to 5, paying bills, trying to, stack money away that I can. I ended up running into a piece of land out in Rushmere,
Mm-hmm.
and I called the guy about it, and he said, well, I mean, yeah, it's for sale. And he ended up having a great connection with a builder. And anyway, so I got real interested in this piece of land in Rushmere. Of course, I couldn't afford to build on it until I sold my house where I was. So that was the plan. That was, let's start a new life. Let's not forget memories, but let's forget this house and what happened here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's build something new here.
Right.
And let's start over. And that was the plan. And it ended up fruitful, But when I sold my house, put on the market, I'm an agent, did it myself, put on the market, I got it under contract while this new house is being built.
Mm-hmm.
And as an agent, we get people that say, oh my God, this is stressful, when they're trying to move into this house or sell this house. And me, I can actually say, oh yeah, for sure it's stressful.
Right.
Absolutely it's stressful.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm trying to sell this house. They're moving in this time. This house has to be built by this day.
Yep.
But now I'm VA because I did, 6 years in the Air Force. So everything's fine. I'm going to be 100%, no down payment, 100%. And so we get, I think, Jason, 2 to 3 weeks from closing, and my VA runs out because they said I didn't pull 16 of the 16 weekends. I missed one and did 15 of the 16.
Mm-hmm.
And I could not qualify for my VA no more when I've already built and bought, 2 houses prior to that using my VA.
Right. Wow.
So I got my house sold, right? And I got to, getting this one, but now I can't use my VA. And we talk money.
Mm-hmm.
I had 65,000, right? I had 165,000 in my bank account after selling this house, and
right.
And I had to go conventional on this one, and they needed $160,000 for me to just make that, or we were going to be homeless.
Yeah,
I had to put. So I did it. Yep. Right. I ended up having $5,000 in my bank account, moving into a new house.
Yep. Got to buy furniture or get it over, but yeah.
And at that time, I'm transferring over from my 9 to 5 to full time of my 5 to 9.
Mm-hmm.
So now, I don't even have a 9 to 5 no more. I'm moving in this house June 6th, right? And then I got less money in my bank account to make one house payment.
Yeah.
And I said, let's get it.
Right.
I said, yeah.
So now, all right, there you go. We naturally like to have problems to solve. So how did you and I love that. I think you just answered this question, but your mindset was, let's get it.
Yeah. I mean, there was no other way.
Yeah.
When you put yourself in that position where you move, and my family, Jason, I don't even know if my wife, of course my kids didn't. I don't even know if she knew.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, really,
yeah.
I don't even know if she knew
the pressure.
I can't sleep at night.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out my next deal.
Right.
Making phone calls.
Yep.
Calling Jimmy, calling builders, calling these people. Hey, what can I do to help your business?
Mm-hmm.
And just getting out there and hustling.
Right.
And I ain't even looked back.
I love that.
So I still work, and people can say, oh, you're lying. You can say all you want to. I still work like I'm in that situation.
Yeah. We should.
Yeah.
I mean,
still work like I'm in.
It's a good mentality to have. Like, hopefully, ideally, as you evolve in business and the things you're doing, that you said earlier, like, you still have to go out and hunt for every dollar, right? Well, the ideal situation for is to get to a point where some of that income becomes like mailbox money. So you're making investments where you can kind of make some money in your sleep, and it's more passive. But you're right, in the real estate game, that's like everybody's dream end goal. But you got to get there, and to get there, you got to go hunt and get the next thing. So, so obviously, you're still in that house, and everything's fine. So you figured it out. What did that look like? Like that hustle and grind, was there a period there where it was a lot of struggle, or did that hustle reap some rewards pretty quickly for you?
It did,
Mhm.
and I will say it turned around fairly quickly.
Yeah.
And I've learned that we don't make money,
Mhm.
we take money.
Mhm.
You know,
Talk about it.
yeah.
Mhm.
So nobody makes money but the government,
Right.
right? But anybody out here that has to, entrepreneur life,
Mhm.
we have to take money from somebody.
Yeah.
I have to do something and take money.
Yeah. Provide a value for a return
That's
for a
right.
dollar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
you do something for me, you
Yeah.
take my money.
Yeah. Right.
And so I've kind of got on the mindset of everybody I come in contact with is a potential client.
Mhm.
Not now, later on down the road, whatever. And I started getting into the wholesaling.
Mhm.
I know you're extremely familiar
Mhm.
with that, and that was extremely lucrative. Pretty saturated now,
Yeah.
but
I didn't realize you leaned so heavily into it. I didn't know that
I
about the
did,
story.
yeah.
Okay.
So while, because I had to do anything I
Yep.
had
Yep.
to do, so I was selling a few houses here and there, 2 or 3, a month or whatever it was, probably 2 or 3 a month. And then what happened with the wholesale is I got a call that this lady had passed away, and her grandson was left the house.
Mhm.
And he said, "Man, I don't know what to do with it. I can just put it on the market." And I went and looked at it, and I was like, "Man, we might want to just give this to somebody,"
Yeah.
because I didn't know anything about
Right.
investment deals. And so I just kind of looked up and ended up wholesaling it, and that got really lucrative for me.
Mhm.
Really going out here while I was, in the
Yeah.
mix of trying to build and build. And I probably wholesaled that year at, 18 to 20 homes.
Really? What year was that?
That was 2023.
Okay.
2023.
Got it. So my thought was, how in the hell did Bill and I not buy one of your wholesale deals? But we had kind of backed off by 2023. We did most of our buying like 18 to 22 roughly. So
And I will say this, and he probably won't care either. You can call all these investors,
mhm.
but Joel Fortune
Oh yeah.
is going to beat anybody
Oh
out
yeah.
there,
He's a
right?
beast.
So once you've learned, who to call,
Right.
we can, if you get one, you can
Mhm.
call Joel. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
he won't mind.
He just bought a house from us recently.
Sterling
His
won't mind
group
either.
did.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Sterling and Joel, they'll snatch it up and more, because when they're flipping 300 homes a year, they can make 10 grand.
Mm-hmm.
I want to hit a home run on a flip.
Mhm.
I just listed our flip this morning, today.
Mhm.
And so if I do 3 and make good, hey, I'm good.
Right.
I don't want to do 300 and make,
Right. So let's jump ahead then.
Yeah.
So like you got into wholesaling. So you're selling homes as a real estate agent. You're wholesaling. So that's kind of some additional income. You've started a couple other businesses, I feel like, along the way too, haven't you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
all branch to real estate.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Flipping, wholesaling,
Yeah.
anything real estate is. We did the inflatables, but we ended up selling out of.
Right. Right.
But yeah, everything I do now is just funneled right to real estate.
Right.
Whether it's building.
Got it. So where do you like, what is the next, and I want to come back to some family stuff and some mindset stuff, but let's stay on business just for a few more minutes. What is the next, as far as business goes, 5 years look like for you? Like, do you have a vision of like where you want to take this thing and a strategy to get there, or is it just ride waves as you're riding?
So it's pretty cool you asked that question, because just this week, Monday, just this week, I met with not one of the top agents here in Hampton Roads, the top agent.
Okay.
The number one agent, 198 deals.
Okay.
Last year.
Yeah. Doing all right.
Yeah. And what I liked to talk about, how to revamp, or am I going, what do you suggest? Like you said, the 5-year plan.
Yeah.
And I really liked what he had in mind is for someone to be as busy as he is, 198 deals last year. He made time to meet with me. Right. So I've learned over the years, you're not as busy as your priorities are stacked. As busy as I was today, I made time to come do the podcast. Right. So that's what we do. Yeah. It's a priority thing.
Yep.
And so the 5-year plan is I'm going to take a step back from trying to really focus on a money-driven business and focus on family And I know you got to make money. I understand that. But I feel like with what happened with me and my wife and my family, I lost some quality time there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I feel like now I can focus more on family. My kids are in, jujitsu,
Right.
and help them with jujitsu. They love it.
They do gymnastics too, right? Or
He's out of gymnastics
got it.
now.
Well, he was a beast at that one.
He was, but
Right.
what people don't know about gymnastics is it's 24/7.
Yeah.
It is not a baseball, football, or basketball
Yeah.
season.
Yeah. Get
Um,
that.
so business wise, I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing. I'm gonna, reach out to some past clients and all, but
Mm-hmm.
but my 5-year plan is to really try to get this thing rolling in 4-wheel drive on its own.
Mm-hmm.
Because we either work for the business or we work in the business.
Yep.
And to me, there's no different me working a 9 to 5 for somebody else or me working a 9 to 5 for myself.
Yeah. Yeah. The difference is you own it. It's your baby. You have a little more passion and motivation to keep it going.
The time family wise.
The trap, and I call it a trap because it is. The trap is because you own it, because it's your baby, because it's the thing that provides the lifestyle. You get sucked into feeling like it's all that all the time. It has to be, or it will fail, right?
Yeah.
So, the only way to avoid that trap is to know, like Bill and I have been, and I've talked about it on this podcast quite a bit, but we've been very intentional with our primary bit. Like we own a lot of real estate, have a lot of rentals, but that's mostly passive because we have property managers and, we'll flip a house or two here and there. But our main business is a lending business. And we started that from scratch, but we knew going into it, it could go one or two ways. We could grow this thing right back to a full-time job like we had that we worked so hard to leave, or we could build it in a way very strategically that allows us to scale the way we want, maybe put off some of the bigger income that can come from that by hiring and delegating some things that we know that if we start doing them now ourselves, we're not going to stop. We're just going to keep doing them, and 50-hour week turns into 70-hour week, and then we're working 2 jobs again. So we've been very intentional with, and this is how I look at, and I'm curious to know how you do now because trying to balance it all, but I look at my calendar week to week. And I work with my wife on this. She's not involved with the business at all. Couldn't tell you one thing about it, but every Sunday and sometimes it's just a 5-minute conversation, comparing notes. Like here's what we got this week. And it starts with family. So JJ's got ball practice. They got swim this morning. We got the game this night. Wednesday night, looks like we don't have anything going on. I'm blocking off 3:00 on. We're gonna have a family day. We're gonna go see a movie. We're gonna cook at the house or whatever. And we fill the calendar up. Now, obviously, there's some things from previous weeks that are already on the calendar that have to be done. But for the most part, 75% of that calendar is filled in with family stuff, and which is the top priority. The rest, I have gaps where then I start filling my week up with the business stuff, right?
Yeah.
Podcast interviews, calling investors, following up on this or that, blocking out time to do things. And by doing it that way, a couple things happen. Number one, I am always present with the family, right? They are first. It's shifted my mind. It used to be fill the calendar up with work stuff, and then they get what's left of me, which is terrible.
Yeah.
But now it's the opposite. But now those times that I block off, like I've blocked off right now to be doing this podcast, it's the only thing I'm thinking about. I'm not thinking about anything else. So by condensing my work time, quote unquote, like the time that I'm focused on work, it allows me to see that it's coming, take care of everything else, make sure when I'm just family time is family time. But when those blocks of times come to work, I'm locked in, and I am more productive doing it this way than I was before, where 80% of the calendar was filled with business stuff, and then I'd fit the family in. So that strategy, I changed it about 2 years ago, and I've been very consistent with it since. And I am more relaxed, more present, more calm. I don't stress because I know that Thursday from 11 to 1, That's my investor call time. I'm going to follow up with investors and all that stuff. And at 101, I'm going to pick JJ up and we're going to the pool, things like that. So
that's where I'm trying to get to.
Right.
Because I'm all work.
Yeah.
And my family gets what's left.
Yep.
And I don't take vacations because I feel like, and maybe you can give me some feedback on this. I feel like if I'm even cutting grass, Jason, if I'm missing something, I'm missing something. There's somebody out there I could be calling.
Yep.
There's something out there.
And there is. You are missing something.
Yeah.
You've got to get comfortable with that. You've got to get comfortable. I don't want to turn this into an advice situation, but I struggle with the same thing. I am always, my brain for my whole life is always thinking about what I'm missing, it's like FOMO with everything in life. Like, God, should I be here meeting this person? Or, to your point, I'm playing with the kids, but God, man, it's 3:00 in the afternoon. I need to be making phone calls.
That's me.
Right. I had to force myself, like literally put boundaries up. And then the other piece is having people hold you accountable. So my wife holds me accountable. Bill and I hold each other accountable to not business things, but to personal things. Make sure we're making time for ourselves and family. It's hard at first. It was very hard for me at first. Like my brain was racing at night. Like, what did I miss? What did I miss? What did I miss?
Yeah.
6 months into it, I was good. Because I realized how productive I was in those short blocks of time when I put boundaries up. I'm now more productive in a 2-hour block than I ever was in an 8-hour day of just focused work. Because when you have bigger blocks of time to focus on things, you chase every rabbit. You're not doing anything really good. But if I say for 2 hours, like in your case, for 2 hours, I'm going to call former clients and just try to set up lunches and whatever, and just put a boundary around it. That's all you're going to do for those 2 hours. So it took me a while to shift that mindset and that habit, but now that I'm into it, dude, things at home I've been very fortunate where our marriage has always been pretty solid, but it's never been better than now. And my connection with my kids has never been better because of this shift. And so not saying you got to do it exactly how I did it, but that worked for me. So yep. So and I catch myself a lot asking guests what their 5-year vision is. I'm gonna be honest, I struggle personally seeing beyond 1 year because I realize in real estate, like I can tell you in 5 years where I would like things to be from an income standpoint, from a time standpoint. But for me to say, in 5 years, I want to own 250 rental houses. I want to have this much.
Oh, yeah,
I cannot do it. Because things change so much, right? And if I'm always focused on a 5-year goal, but it never happens because things change, then you're always failing, right? Yeah. So I like those 6-month, 1-year goals.
And crazy point, last year, normally January, we got time?
Yeah, we're good.
Normally January, I'll do a 1-year plan, right? Well, last year I said, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to bust my tail and work and do the best I can. And let's just see what happens here. So my 1 year, what I was going to put on paper, what I wanted to make or transaction volume numbers, what I wanted to do in that 1 year, I had already accomplished in May.
Yeah.
Because we get so goal driven to where, like Steve Harvey says, we can't even fathom what we can accomplish. So we're saying, if I want to make, low number, if I want to make $100,000 a year, right? Well, I mean, if you really, if I put a gun to your head, I've heard this over and over again on, podcasts. If I put a gun to your head and told you, hey, Mr. Seward, you need to make $100,000 this year, or I'm going to kill you and your family.
Right.
You'd have it done in a month.
Right. Exactly.
You know what I mean? You have it done in a week, maybe.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So,
yep.
And so now I try not to set myself short. I like setting goals, of course, but like you said, I try not to set myself short and try to say, well, this is where I want to be. Because, I mean, you could be 10 times better than that or higher.
One of my mentors, Tim Brott's a big real estate guy down in Charleston, South Carolina, but he always talks about this idea of if you're doing things the right way, a lot of times you're setting your short-term goals so big, they scare you, and a lot of times you're not hitting them, right? But if you consistently do that month in, month out, year in, year out, you'll look up in 10 years, and most people that have been consistent are way further in 5, 10 years than they would have ever imagined, because they just kept grinding and consistently going after these short-term goals that they may have failed at, right? So Bill and I have seen that in our business where, man, we started this lending business, this fund from scratch. And early on, like, it was doing exactly what Bill expected it to.
Yeah.
But I want instant gratification.
Yeah.
Like, I want results. But we look up, we're almost 3 years into it. It is way bigger than I ever would have imagined in 3 years. But 2.5 years ago, I was like, this ain't working, man. Like, we got to find something else to do. Like, and
I need to start building furniture.
right. The key, the point is, like, I was so short-term focused, which was fine, but in that planting of seeds and doing all the right things and stressing about it not grow, all of a sudden we look up and, oh shit, this did work out. This is way bigger than we could have expected, and heading to places we didn't expect, So I like that idea of not really focusing on the long term, but trusting those short-term activities are going to put you beyond whatever you can dream of. So
it's like working out.
Yep.
Exactly. If you just go in the gym and do it every day,
Yeah.
you're gonna see
Right.
pain.
Yeah. And I'd say, like, nobody, not one person on this planet is going to go to the gym day one and lose the 20 pounds they want to lose.
That's right.
They won't lose anything. They're not going to notice it unless they cut a leg off or something, So, but you're right. That's a good.
I like seeing really. Wow, that sounds bad. I like seeing really well fit guys, right? Because I know that in your life you've had to be disciplined. Somewhere.
Right.
Oh, you might not be the best business person.
Yep.
You might not be the best father, best husband, best
but just show up for something.
But you had to be disciplined to get that body.
I agree.
Shape.
I agree. And that person naturally that just looks healthy. They don't look unhealthy. They look healthy. That's somebody that tends to gain more respect just in the world, right? Because of that.
That's not even an opinion.
Right.
That's a fact.
Right. Yeah.
And maybe you walk in a room and the dude fills out his suit and a shirt, and and he shakes your hand, looks at you, or you got a slob that comes in there.
Yeah.
I mean, which one do you want to do business with?
Right. Now,
not saying that he's better at business.
There's nuance there.
That's right.
Because there's a lot of buff dudes and fit dudes that are absolute jerks.
Absolutely.
And horrible business people, very bad ethics, and there's a lot of people that maybe have let themselves go a little bit that are phenomenal human beings.
Sure.
Phenomenal. But in general, the optics of just walking around, most people tend to, without talking to them, they earn a little bit more respect initially, based on appearance. And that's just the way it is.
To me, I gravitate more towards the guy in shape, because I've already know he had to be disciplined at something.
Yeah.
Could be a wrong decision. But
if he ends up being a jerk, then okay, see you later. I was wrong. But
right.
Yeah. So let's you have in the course of this podcast, you've thrown out several quotes from people that it sounds like you're very active listening to podcasts and mindset nuggets and stuff like that. So is that something that you've always done, or is that part of your growth and evolution?
No, 100% part of my growth. And the reason is social media is great. Most people say, I hate social media is great if you can control it.
Yep.
And so if I see anything negative, victim, something negative towards me or negative towards, I'm either unfollowing you or so when I hop on my social media,
all positive.
I enjoy it.
Yeah. Right.
I enjoy it. I'm not seeing Donald Trump against whoever it was or Joe Biden.
Yep.
I'm not seeing that crap. Right. I see Alex Hermosi. I see Jason Seward. And I see people that are uplifting, that are in business. And so when I hop on mine, I love to get on. I don't rarely do it. I call it post and ghost. I do a lot of posting because I'm, at a parking lot or something, bam, post that, and I'm gone.
Yeah.
I won't see the comments till 3:30 that morning or, 11 o'clock at night. But when I do have time to get on social media, I enjoy it because it's the quotes I've been throwing out. I'm hearing that over and over and over again. And Grant Cardone, Alex Hermosi, Miles, he wrote. So all that is just saturated and I've created that because I've gotten rid of a lot of negativity. I'm not saying they're a bad person. I just don't want to fill my heart and my mind with that.
Yeah.
And so,
Couldn't agree more. And it's not hard. Like the algorithms that everybody talks to, they're going to feed you what you are attracted to. So if you're clicking on those bad videos and the contentious things and stuff like that and the negativity, well, you're going to get more and more of it. But if you're clicking on the hormozes or watching, whatever it is, and it's all positive, it's going to keep feeding you that information. Sure. That gets you. So I agree 100% there. I'm the same way. I try to, whether it's podcasts, audiobooks, videos, social media, I'm always trying to just feed my brain with positivity because I'm naturally a positive person, but when all the input I'm getting, or most of it's positive, it just, for me, it calibrates everything else. There's not much that can happen throughout the course of a day. Now, obviously, there's some bad things that can happen, but that's really going to knock me down, right?
Yeah, like Steve Harvey always says, it's 100% the reaction of what goes on. Because a lot of things you can't control what happens, but you can control how you react to it.
Yeah.
So if something happens and, I have a bad incident with you or whoever, it happened.
Yeah.
So whether I'm going to be down about it or I'm going to be uplifting about it, work it out, that's on me.
Yeah.
And so
right.
yeah, it is.
Right.
The accident happened.
Yeah.
It is what it is now. And so, yeah.
If you come into my house, I've got in big letters above, like a bunch of pictures we have on the wall, but it says and my mom used to say this to us, but you can't control the wind, but you can adjust your sails. And that's exactly what you're talking about, right? It's going to blow and the life's going to do what it does. And we got a choice how we handle it. So, unfortunately, that's not normal. Most people, even if they complain about negativity in their life, they're attracted to a negativity, right? They get uncomfortable, a lot of people, when things are going smooth. And their mindset is, oh, just give it time. Something bad's going to happen, right? And that, you and I see that quite a bit. But with the mindset, one other thing is consistency. And one thing I know about you, like I consistently work out. I don't consistently do it at the same time every day, so I'm all over the place. But anytime, Monday through Friday, between 8 to 10 a.m., if I'm at that YMCA, which is right up the road from where we're recording, I'm going to see you. You have been, and this has been
for the length, sir.
Right, but no, for the last few years, consistently, I know I'm going to see Brandon in that gym doing his routine with your little bebots or whatever they are, the beats.
Look, I had a person come up to me the other day, and I had my headphones on, and they asked me, they said, "Why do you wear those, the real big ones?" And I was straight up with them. I said, "Because I don't want people to bother me."
Right. Yeah.
And she I was like, "You're fine."
Yeah.
But the facts are facts, right? I don't want people, if you have them tucked in your ear, it might not look like you have headphones in.
Right.
Then they come up and say something like, "I'm there to grind." You know that.
Yeah. Like I see you every time I see you there. I want to talk to you. But I just walk up. So right. Let's go do our thing. So, but how important is that for you to get it in? It seems like you do it in the morning before things get going too heavy in the day. Is that intentional? What's the mindset there?
Yeah. So I tried the get up and go routine. My brother has always worked out. Always. I mean, since it's almost like birth almost. He is. And I never wanted any parts of it.
Right.
I never did. But when I did the, when I transferred over to the entrepreneurship, I used to just get up and go. Get up and work.
Right.
Get up. I got hunting dogs.
Yep.
So I get up, I feed my dogs every morning, 6 o'clock, and bam, I work. Well, I had no time to depress.
Right.
I had no time to get ready to go to work. And so now my routine's a lot slower in the morning. I don't get up and punch it in the face. You know what I mean?
Right.
I get up and my routine's slower. I do the dogs, meditate, pray a little bit, figure out, is my schedule still on for what it's supposed to be? Hit the gym. And then after the gym, it's on.
Yeah.
It's like you said, rehab, that's 2 hours. So that's why, I work out, of course, for my kids.
Yeah.
I'm competitive. We're all competitive. Right. Parties at McDonald's. I had an agent tell me, well, we don't need to be competitive with each other. Well, you don't.
Right.
but I will, right? That's just it's
Right.
friendly,
Yep.
you know,
It's fine.
nothing
Yep.
bad against it.
Right.
Um, and so I'm extremely competitive, and my kids, I want them to look at me as a father figure.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to like my daughter told me the other day guy was doing jujitsu, and she said, "Oh, he's ripped," and I said, "Am I ripped?" And she goes, "Not like him," you know,
Right.
So then I'm like, "All right,
Got to hit it hard.
pre-workout."
Yeah. There you go.
So to be honest, that's why I work out
Yeah.
for my wife and my kids,
Yeah.
and of course my health.
Right.
But we want to be healthy so we have a long
That's
relationship.
part of it. It all ties back to, just being the best version you can be. And that goes all the way to 90 years old, right?
Sure.
I could be hit by a bus tomorrow, but assuming I'm not, everything I can control, everything you can control, let's control it to make sure we're setting ourselves up to be the best person we can be for our family. So I think you and I are aligned in a lot of ways there. But Brandon, I mean, I could go on I got a lot of things, and maybe we'll do this again real quick. I want you to promote, because you're doing a TV show and all of that. So talk about that, what all that entails, and where folks can find it, all that.
Yeah, so the American Dream Network, it's on TV, it's on apps you can watch.
Yeah.
What they did is they've hit these big cities, Chicago, LA, Miami, they get a lot of these agents to promote the lifestyle of these big cities. Well, now they're kind of getting into the smaller, the Hampton Roads, the Charleston, the smaller cities, and they have gotten probably, I would say at least 8 or 10 agents around, Hampton Roads to just promote the lifestyle. Truth is, it's not really for me, to be honest with you. I'm not as much as, people might think, he's all over. I don't want to be a big,
I get it.
person all over social media, but I'm trying to use it to leverage, to let people know about me, know how I can help them, and maybe it will help grow my business.
Yeah, and it will.
Yeah, and I'm hoping so. I've been seeing some results.
Right.
The show's great. Nothing wrong with the show.
Right.
It's a lot of planning, a lot of work.
Yeah.
So if I contact you about it, and need some help, bear with me.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, it's not, something that, I'm going to be, flying around on, a movie scene or anything.
Right.
It's very localized, very,
It's cool. And it gives you, from what I can tell, it gives you a chance to also like bring forward some other and highlight some other business locally and stuff.
Yeah.
I know you were doing some stuff with some local farmers and stuff like
it's
that.
all about exposure,
Yep. So
most of them like it. Most of them don't. The July episode is going to be Boo Williams.
Oh, really? I was in Hampton.
So
Okay.
So me and Boo, I used to play for Boo.
Okay.
Or play, I guess you'd say, with Boo. But yeah, so I'm gonna interview Boo. He's got, I think, 17 NBA players that have came through his. But so that's gonna be a pretty cool one.
Yep. Is he still? I'm just curious. Does he still have the was it the AAU teams that he does over in Hampton? Yeah. So he's still big. He's been around since I was a kid.
Yeah, and he's
still. Yeah, that's awesome. And is he still running? Didn't he run an insurance agency? Is he still?
I'm not sure about that.
Yeah,
gotcha.
Cool. Yeah, I'd like to meet him. It'd be kind of cool to get him on here as well. So yeah, but
he's got a tournament. He won't care if I say the dates. He's got a tournament June 27th and 28th.
Okay.
So I'll be there that weekend. Film his tournament.
That's great
with him. So
good deal. Well, Brandon, I appreciate you coming on. Like I said, we've been talking about this for a while and had a couple conflicts with the schedule, but we finally got it in. And once we do get a more proper studio to do this, then I'll definitely get you back on. And I appreciate, like I said, I've seen it from afar, but also living around you, and just, I've seen your development, I've seen your growth, and I'll see it continuing to happen, but your commitment to it, and to hear you talk about trying to be the best dad, to be the best husband, to be the best, all these things. I appreciate it. And I wanted to get you on here to give you a chance to talk about those things, because it's a testament to, how old are you now, if you don't mind sharing?
33 in August.
Okay, so you're 12 years from that 21-year-old that was just screwing everything up. And
oh my God.
Right. Yeah. And so it's a good testament, and it should be inspirational to folks that maybe haven't figured out a direction, or they're still trying. Like, anybody can do this. You and I are great examples of this. We're small town dudes from middle of nowhere, don't have a pot to piss in, don't know anything, and we're figuring it out,
Yeah,
you know, and
sure.
and it's through consistency, failing, learning from the failure,
And what is your why?
right,
You
and
know, why
control,
are you
right,
doing
and controlling our sales, like we said earlier. So, Brandon, with that, we'll wrap it up, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate you coming on.
Give you a little shout out. I have tons of investors. So guys, all my investors, if you're looking for, loans when you're flipping or doing DSCR loans or any kind of loans you need to do and don't want to use your own capital, 608B.
Yep.
608B Capital. Get with them. I can get you hooked up with Jason, his partner Bill. Great people, and they love to help you out.
Yeah, cool. We appreciate it, Brandon, and thanks for everybody joining us on another episode of Burning the Ships podcast.
Yep.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Burning the Ships. I want to give a special thanks to our sponsor, 608B Capital, helping real estate investors secure fast, reliable funding to fuel their boldest moves. If you're ready to take your investing to the next level, visit 608bcapital.com to learn more. If you found value in today's episode, please take a moment to rate and review the podcast. Your feedback not only helps us improve, but it also helps us reach more people who are ready to burn the ships and commit fully to their goals. And don't forget to share the episode with someone who needs that extra push to take bold action. I'll leave you with this. Burning the ships isn't just about removing the option to retreat. It's about unlocking the courage to charge forward. No matter the odds, the past is behind you and the future is yours to conquer. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time on Burning the Ships.